EVPs, how to conduct proper EVPs, how to have a controlled environment. We're going to have a special guest with us, Vince. Sorry, Vince, I got to remember your name. DeVoe. Vince DeVoe with us. He is a professional audio engineer. He's actually helping us right now with our hostel episode for the audio.
Wow.
So, well, there we go. So we got some. We have the waitress serving us some
Snacks.
chips.
So we could crunch
So
for
we
you
can
guys.
crunch. There we go. So Vince can go in his ear.
We have a couple comments. Do you want me to interrupt you guys, or do you want me to wait?
Just comment directly if you want. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, Colin's just commenting on the comments on our Facebook page. So again, I have Kyle. Kyle is like the MacGyver of the group. He does a lot of the. He's my tech assistant. Have Taylor. She's in private psychology. She's been with the team for now almost 2-3 years. And Colin, who is a videographer, professional videographer, including Adam in the background. He's doing all the OBS stuff. And he's actually broadcasting this whole show right now. And we have Vince, who's going to join us a little while later to give his opinions on how we should conduct proper EVPs. So,
sound engineer, right? Sound engineer?
Audio engineer, yeah, professional audio engineer. So it'll be nice to get his input on.
Yeah.
The more we can get better information on how we can conduct proper EVPs, even the better.
Yeah.
So, brief overview of our last show. We were going to show you a couple of live and unedited. So, we were going to show you a couple of EVPs that we captured on our last show, but obviously we had a lot of glitches. It didn't work out. It wasn't coming out right. So, maybe we can show you a couple of them right now. So, this is a brief overview of our last show and what we were going to show you. So, yeah, go ahead, Adam. Maybe clue in the first EVP, the little girl that we caught at the was it town center? I think we caught. Was it town center? Oh no, it was the. No, this was town hall. Town hall.
Town hall.
Oh,
With
Town hall, yeah.
No.
Okay. So we're back. So I don't know if you guys heard that. Actually, play it again, Adam. It's actually at the beginning, and you hear this little, what we think, and I think you're the one that captures, a little giggle, which we think is a little girl giggling, but we're not sure. I mean, we're not going to call it paranormal. It's unexplained. We don't know. It was a controlled environment. Everybody was accounted for. Nobody was talking. Nobody was moving anything, so we think it could be a little girl giggling. So anyways, that was one of the EVPs we wanted to show on the last episode. So we're going to show you a few more of those later once we sit down with Vince. Now, what's an EVP, or what's it defined as?
Electronic voice phenomenon.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's defined as a voice that's caught on a frequency that we can't hear with our human ears. It's usually on a device, a digital recorder usually, that has a very sensitive microphone, so it'll pick up like a word, or even if you're lucky, a phrase that's happening in the background, some other frequency that we can't hear, right?
Yeah. Well, it's defined as capturing voices that we can hear with our own ears, but it eventually appears on the recorder once you kind of play it back.
Especially intelligently.
Yeah.
Like if you're asking a question, usually you pause and.
Well, that's what you have to think about. You're going to hear this one. Okay. So, when, as far as we know, EVPs were started back in the 1970s, and not too sure who the person. Oh, yes, it was. Parapsychologist Konstantin Rodiv had this theory back in the 1970s of capturing disembodied voices on recorders. Now, a lot of this stuff is not backed up scientifically. It's all hypothesis. There's no actual real theories behind it. Most of what we do in ghost hunting is all hypothesis. Yeah, there's nothing proven.
But the equipment itself is set to hear things that we can't hear. Like if there's a tiny sound or something, it will hear that. So it's a functioning machine that is doing what it supposedly does. So if you hear something on it that's strange, it's a sound that occurred.
Yeah. Plus, obviously,
that is.
These recorders are actually more sensitive than our ears, so we might not hear it at first, but the recorders will pick it up. So that's...
And most of our catches we don't hear in real time. I would say 95%
We don't hear it
Yeah.
in real time.
But we do try to live review, which helps.
Yeah.
We'll do
Sometimes,
a
yeah, we'll
snippet,
review.
and then we'll listen so that we know if we're in the right spot or something.
So we have a related question from Amy.
Oh,
Our friend
Amy.
Amy.
Hi, boo boo.
She says, "What EVP equipment do you use? Also, do you use spirit boxes?"
Well, do we?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, let's elaborate on that a little bit.
yeah, so what's our take on the spirit boxes? We're skeptical on it because it's left to interpretation,
Skeptical.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you elaborate on
Intriguing.
that, Colin? Because you did it for a while at the hostel.
Yeah, okay. Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
Toss that for now. Yeah, so like the spirit box is kind of it's like they're saying it's a very skeptical piece of equipment, because it can be left up to interpretation. So like if everybody's listening to it and a voice comes out and someone says like, "Oh, that sounds like someone said devil," then everybody else is kind of like, "Oh yeah, it did sound like devil." So I came up with this experiment that we do where we have one person who puts on noise reduction headphones, and they just listen to the frequencies going through the spirit box, and then everybody else asks questions. So the person who has the headphones on can't hear the question, and they're just saying what they hear. So that kind of makes it a little bit more valid. But again, like, it's nothing that can be really proved in a scientific method. It is fun to experiment with,
It's
though.
compelling.
Mhm.
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Some of the answers are.
Well, it's kind of like when we were at the hostel,
Mhm.
and this was when you first started with Ghost, and you had
Yeah.
those headphones on, which you were coming up with all these
Yeah.
answers to
There's
questions
no
we
way
were
that you
asking.
can
Yeah,
do
Yeah,
a
they were
question.
related to the questions that you guys were.
yeah, because you
We're
can hear
asking.
what the hell we
You
were
can't
saying.
hear
So,
what
but
they're
you
saying.
were
It's very
actually
loud.
answering these questions, which
Mhm.
Yeah.
which I don't know
Fluidly.
scientifically how are you going to explain that?
Yeah.
You know?
And all the viewers, you guys will get to see when the episode comes out.
Yeah,
For the
and
hostel.
Yeah, we did a really
that's
cool
hopefully
experience
that's
with Ghost Box.
hopefully coming up soon. So,
Yeah.
which camera should we be looking at first?
And then EVP,
This
we
one,
use.
That's the main live and unedited. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about the equipment that we use.
with basic digital.
And do you wanna-
recorder.
Yeah, sure. So again, capturing EVPs, this whole thing of getting disembodied voices on a recorder, again, it's a hypothesis. And I'll give you a definition of what theory and hypothesis, the difference in between, and this is definitely off the internet. I wouldn't come up with these words anyways. So a definition of a theory is a supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent of the thing to be explained. If you look at hypothesis, it's a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. Which, as ghost hunters or paranormal researchers, this is what we do. We take the equipment, we further investigate it, we further test it to see if we can actually find concrete evidence
Yeah.
of paranormal
We
activity.
elaborate on patterns that have been noticed by other investigators, see if we can also find those patterns, see if they're onto something.
Yeah.
There's little evidence, but it is built on some things that it already.
Yeah,
exists.
there's ideas
We
up
have a
there that it's,
direction.
yeah, but it still needs further investigation. Of
Yeah.
course, there's no
Proof.
rock
Evidence
hard
and
theory, a theory that says that this is possible. We can capture somebody's disembodied voice of someone who's passed away, or but it's still a hypothesis, and it's something we work with.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Well, it's actually kind of it's thought of as a recording, right?
Yeah.
Like a pre-recorded and a residual.
Yeah.
Like
well, that's the thing too. We
Something,
can
yeah.
catch residual energy sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
I
not
know.
maybe an interactive spirit, as we would say,
Yeah.
but maybe something
Like the giggling, like that
Yeah.
probably wasn't an intelligent response.
No.
Anything unless I said
No.
something funny. I don't remember what
Yeah.
the context
If
was.
there's
I do
no-
say a lot of funny
if
things.
there's no intelligent answer
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the question, if it's just random, like a random scream, like we got.
But there
in,
are tons
no,
of
I've
pieces
been
of
on that
evidence,
also.
tons of pieces of evidence that you can find if you go looking for it, people finding intelligent answers. It's just
Yeah.
that we can't call it proof, because we can't prove that they didn't fake it. We can't we can only have our own experiences.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've heard things that to me would be
Excuse me.
pretty close to proof that the equipment does work and stuff. And I know that we didn't plant anything or
No.
make it, but only we can know that. So everyone kind of has to experience it for themselves, I think, and that's why science is like hitting that wall,
Well, again, it's and this is the next topic we're going to talk about, which is part of capturing EVPs, is a controlled environment.
Yeah.
Now, a controlled environment is being aware of all your surroundings, right? Like what's going on, where people are, what noises are. So the first thing you have to do when you're conducting an EVP is account for everybody's location. Where is everybody at the investigation?
Mhm.
What are they doing? The other thing that a lot of people don't do, you have to keep, while an EVP is being conducted, you have to be completely silent, which includes at the base. People at the base have to be silent. You can't say a single word. And if you do speak, a lot of times people, they whisper, right?
Yeah.
When we do EVPs, and that's the
All
whisper
or
state.
nothing.
And I had that experience at the bowling house. Because
Yeah.
I whispered something.
You
I
do.
thought I did. It was my fault.
I'm reviewing. I'm like, God.
Because I was actually reviewing some audio and I thought, oh my God. I said, I caught something. It says, I don't know. And this again is important when you have multiple pieces of equipment capturing the same scene, is that I was actually taking the night vision camera, look at my face, because Taylor had asked a question. I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I whispered. But when I just reviewed the audio off one of our recorders, it sounded like an EVP. But when I looked at the video from the camera, I said, "Oh my God, it's me."
We don't want to have to match everything up with other things.
Yeah, so
it's enough to review already.
So it's basically when you do EVPs, do not whisper, talk out loud. Don't
And as little, like, don't shuffle either, you know.
Don't make any noise.
And
Yeah.
tag it if you do. Like
Yeah.
things happen. It's almost instinct to like whisper when you're in a dark room. Like we all find ourselves just automatically whispering. But if you catch yourself, then tag it. Just be like, oh, that was me whispering.
It's almost instinctive. You want to whisper,
Yeah.
but who are you going to disturb, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody to disturb, so we
Yeah.
should.
Well, sometimes the people at the places.
Well, when the owners
owners
are there,
or
yeah,
whatever,
but we
or
still have to
sleeping.
talk out loud. So yeah, again, if you make a noise, and so we're already into describing how to conduct properly. So you make a noise, you tag it. The other thing is if you hear a noise, because a lot of the times we'll hear noises on the outside. We might hear a dog barking outside. Or we hear, like at the church, when we heard people talking outside. It was coming up on the recorder, so we have to tag that. So we heard people
Everything.
talking outside.
Anything that's immediately identifiable and we know isn't there at all, we'll tag it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have to tag. Tagging is so important because it's so much more helpful when you go to review your recordings after and you tag it. You can't mistake something for a potential EVP, so you have to be very specific.
Reviewing is already so tedious.
It's
so
tedious to
you
start
don't
with.
want to
Yeah.
add more.
So if you don't tag the noises that are familiar or the noises that you make, you're gonna be listening. You're gonna think everything's paranormal or unexplained. So how do we conduct EVPs? Like our style of conducting EVPs, how do we do it?
We have a few different ones, right? We have
The
revolving.
revolving
EVP.
like
yeah.
a net.
That one's my favorite. It's the most popular one that we do for sure.
Yeah, the revolving one. You know what that one is, Go?
Yeah, of course.
You want to explain that one a bit?
No.
Yeah. Live in the net.
You
Kyle
go
goes,
ahead.
Kyle's the silent type.
No.
He's quiet. So what we usually do on a revolving EVP is that we'll have different investigators in different locations around the building or inside the building. Every investigator is going to have a recorder. Now, once everybody's set up in their specific location, so we're going to try to maybe like east, west, south, north, whatever. We're going to try to scatter these investigators
Or
through
active spots, right?
active spots or around active spots. And I guess for us, the hypothesis would say is that you never know if there's a spirit there, where the spirit's going to be. Is it going to talk in one corner? Is it going to talk in another corner? We don't know
Cover
that.
all our bases.
Cover all our bases. So usually, and again, we have to actually, before we go into the revolving, let's explain exactly how we conduct EVPs or how we do it or we believe is the right way to do it.
Sure.
So basically, when you start an EVP, you make sure everybody's ready, everybody's in the location, and then everybody will turn on their recorder. You have to identify where you are, which location, and who's participating in the EVP, right?
Yeah, who's
So
around?
if we're in a corner, let's say in this room, okay, Dan, Kyle, Taylor, Colin in the ghost room conducting an EVP, most important thing we do also is what we sync with the bass, the time. Timing with the bass is very important because if something happens, you can go back to your DVR system and actually look at the specific time. If you caught an EVP, you can see visually if something happened at the same time. So you're backing up your audio evidence with some video evidence.
See if someone got up to go to the bathroom and maybe that's what it was.
Or somebody's walking
It also
around.
helps with review when everything's timed the same amount with the visual and the audio.
Yeah. So again, it's to make sure that. So usually when we do EVP, we'll count for everybody. We'll turn on our recorders. We'll have two-way radios. We'll call base, and we'll ask base, and that's our base time is at the DVR, and we'll ask the person at base, what time is it? So we'll say, I don't know, what time is it now? We'll say 8:25. So we'll say 8:25 p.m. EVP in a ghost room with Kyle, Dan, Taylor, and Colin. So now we know people are accounted for. We know who's present. We know what the time is, and it is synced with base. Then we start our EVP. Okay, which is the same process when we have the revolving EVP. Everybody will turn on the recorders at once, all at the same time, and then each person in each section will ask 5 questions, and it revolves, and goes around. So, again, what's important too? Pauses in between questions, right?
Yeah, 5-10 seconds. Ask a question, wait 5 to 10 seconds. Still like when you're reviewing it, when you're listening to the recording afterwards, you have that, a little short amount of time to see if there is like an intelligent response that comes through.
The
A lot
theory
of
is
time
that
there is a delay.
Yeah.
Right.
the theory is that
seconds.
spirits live
Yeah.
on a dimension that's a different frequency than ours. That's why we can catch it on the spirit box getting frequencies, and so time and space don't move the same for them, and that seems to be why we find a delay, almost like their responses sometimes like they speak very slowly or quickly, and they take a while to answer, and it also takes them theoretically a lot of time to muster the energy to speak out loud, using things like batteries, draining things in the environment, things like that. So you have to give them a chance to articulate themselves and have that burst of energy out there.
Again, it's all based on hypothesis. We don't have any actual theories to
That's
prove that, but I mean,
just theory, I think.
there are no real proven ways of investigating the paranormal. We just try and see. We that's why we usually call stuff unexplained.
Yeah.
We never call it paranormal because unless we have it like a scientist that says, well, you know what, I don't understand how you guys got this. Okay, you're a scientist. You say you can't explain it, then it's paranormal because that's the definition of paranormal.
But for
You
example,
can't
that specifically even has a lot of different things that would correlate with that being possibly a hypothesis rather than a theory. Like, people experience cold spots. That means that somewhere an energy is being taken from the air, right? A lot of people experience batteries being drained. That also points towards something taking energy. So for us to think that it could take them a while that they need to gather energy to articulate themselves or show themselves visually matches up with a lot of other patterns that investigators have seen in other areas of the field. So it has a couple things that all point that direction, right? That they use energy in the environment.
Yeah. So so when conducting EVP, the whole point is, and this is based on science, right? Controlled environment is science. Science is controlled environment. So like being in a lab. So when we actually do our EVPs, we try to consider the location as a lab. So we try to control everything, control who's there, who's accounted for. Don't make any noise, don't whisper, talk out loud, and eliminate contamination, right?
Yeah,
That's what it is.
contamination and bias. If there's anything we can do to make sure that we're not hysteric or we are not adding to unexpected noises or answers, like with the headphones, with the ghost box, like that's all part of it. Eliminating literally anything that could possibly be out of control.
Well, that's what when Colin came up with the headphones. It's again controlling that environment. It's reducing the contamination and the power of suggestion, right? It's like, okay, well, and that's what science is. That's just to a certain extent, at least we hope that's what it is, and how we investigate is to eliminate possible contamination and actually have that controlled environment. So when we do capture, kind of like if we're in a room and it's Kyle, me, you, and Colin, and everything's controlled, let's say it's Tracy at base, she's not saying anything, we're tagging every single noise that we hear, every single noise that we make, and we're in a room and there's a fifth voice, that's got to be unexplained. Is it going to be paranormal?
Windows
we don't know.
Closed.
Yeah, we don't know if it's paranormal because we can't say, but we can call it unexplained.
Yeah, and like most time, like if we hear something like out of the ordinary happen, like during an experiment like that, we'll try and debunk it like immediately. We'll try and figure out, what could have caused this, and then we'll go, check outside, see if there's anybody outside, We take all the measures to ensure that it was
We almost
it
go
wasn't
into
contamination.
We almost go into a location trying to debunk the paranormal. I always kind of explain it. We try to eliminate all mundane causes for anything. We find drafts. We take face readings. Like that's our process, is going in almost trying to debunk the paranormal.
Because we know you can't detect the ghost with an EMF meter.
Yeah, like whatever we're left with, it's a process of elimination.
A lot of mechanical sounds could sound like a voice too.
So many things can get distorted.
Yeah.
Water
systems,
trickling in pipes sounds a lot like
yeah.
whispering,
Yeah.
like matrixing is real. So
Yeah. Oh, we forgot to mention, and I think you saw that on our page. Kyle is into building automation, so he knows everything about what a building the noise it may make, like we did at the U.S.T the Ottawa Jail Hospital, the window,
Yes. Yeah.
negative, positive air pressures
Yeah.
inside a building. So that's what we do when we conduct investigations, just like EVPs. We try to eliminate all possible natural phenomena. That's why we have such a controlled environment. So when we do come up with an actual EVP, it's a little bit more compelling and a little bit more valid because everything is controlled, and that's what we would. It's a scientific-based method.
Yeah.
So at this point, next is Vince. We have a special guest, as we told you earlier, Vince DeVoe, right? Got it right. Vince DeVoe is a professional audio engineer. He's actually helping us out right now with this live feed, and he's actually helping us out with the audio on our Hostel episode. So Vince, if you want to come in here. Okay, so Kyle's going to the bathroom, so Vince, come on in. We're going to talk to Vince a bit about EPs. Hello, Vince. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no
Well,
problem.
let's
No
talk.
problem. So, what's your opinion on EVPs, Vince? Like,
I don't know too much about it, but I mean, I do a lot of work with audio, so like, I mean, I watched a little bit of the ghost stuff online, and it kind of freaks me out a bit. But like, I mean, the way to capture it, like, I mean, I never really thought of it that way. I know that like there's some pretty hefty gear that you can use to really capture, some pretty wicked stuff at night. But I mean, like, there's ways that you could like, I mean, maybe even visually see it, because there is a lot of software out there where you can actually convert what you hear visually. So like maybe you can actually see something that might be out of the ordinary.
so what's the name of that software?
I think it's it's from Isotope. It's called the RX.
Yeah.
I think it's an RX tool. So it's like you can actually like, it's almost like using a paint tool where you can like repair audio by just painting over it, that type of thing.
Okay.
So maybe you can visually see something that's like,
So it's not just
out.
we can actually see it. Yeah, it's not just the ears, so we can actually get a visual interpretation of the sound.
Yeah,
That's really
exactly.
cool.
But do you actually think EVPs are cool? Can we actually capture the voice of potentially deceased people? Do you think that's possible?
I think that maybe there's something like that you could actually do. Like, I mean, I've never done it myself, but I know, like, personally, I've captured on camera, like using like just like a picture camera.
Yeah.
And like I saw something out of the ordinary, but like when it comes to like audio, like I never really had that happen really. But like I know that like it's definitely, anything's possible for
it's
sure.
weird because audio is way more common than catching anything visual.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of weird, but it seems to be the norm among all teams. It's like we capture always audio evidence, but never visual evidence. So maybe having that kind of program might give it a little bit more.
Is maybe our human ears stronger than our human eye capacity range?
I guess it depends. I'm deaf on both. I'm blind. I can't hear anything.
It's
So
not you.
Yeah, no, that's kind of funny. So I would have thought that you would capture more visually than audio-wise. Like,
well, that's what I would
more-
think. But I mean, it would be the two
Yeah.
mediums that lie the less, right? Because the camera will film what's there, and then audio will capture the audio. Now, one thing that a lot of people say, and I think I'd mentioned it on one of the interviews I did before, is it possible to capture, because we know a lot of the recorders and you use a lot of really, really great fancy equipment. Those recorders, can they hear more than the human ear? Can they hear like frequencies?
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely.
Like
So what
there's-
would be the average frequency response, let's
Well,
say the
anything-
recorder we're using right now.
Well, like anything like between 20 hertz, 20 kilohertz, like that full frequency range is
Yeah.
what is audible to the human ear.
Human ear.
But anything higher or lower, like I mean, animals will hear it. So it's
Yeah.
like anything that's like over like 20K, like
Yeah.
a dog will definitely hear it.
Kind of like dog whistle.
Yeah,
We
it's
have
like a
dog
dog
whistles, and the
whistle
dog
type
whistle.
thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We don't hear it, but the dog will hear
Maybe
right
that's
away.
why
yeah.
animals react to paranormal activity too.
That's it.
Because they say
Exactly.
their visual vibration is
Yeah,
different, so they
children.
see a little bit more in children because
You're
they
born
haven't
with-
been programmed to.
Well, that and you are
Forget
born
it's just
with
your
that
imagination
more
type thing,
ear
yeah.
span and eye span when you're born, right?
Yeah.
Your range is
Yeah, and
bigger.
the eardrum
when it
in a
gets-
baby
yeah.
is much smaller
Yeah.
too, so it's like they'll capture a higher frequency than a lower frequency as well. So like they might hear something out of
Yeah.
the ordinary too, but I mean
Yeah.
they wouldn't be able to explain it. They're kids, they're little babies. Right?
Yeah.
So as far as doing EVPs, like, do you have any words of advice on how we could better our techniques to actually capture better
Refine.
EVPs and maybe reduce contamination and just actually get something a little bit more concrete?
I like thought of it before, and I think that like maybe like trying to make yourself as isolated from the outside as possible. So it's like if you have like your recorders indoors, you're recording something indoors, make sure that it's as like in an area that's enclosed as possible, so that you don't run the risk of having bleed from another source, like outside or
Yeah.
something like that. Because like so long as it's like super enclosed,
Yeah.
and you're using microphones that are very, very precise, like condenser microphones, for
Yeah.
example.
Which
They'll
would
capture everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
be like some of the
this.
stuff that we're going to get
Yeah.
into
And the
now.
box effect. What is it called? I don't want to say.
The box?
Yeah, you know, cage.
Oh, a Faraday box. What do you think about that? Does that actually work?
I'm not too sure about it.
Faraday box was it was by a guy called Faraday, right?
I'd imagine
Faraday,
Michael
that's
Faraday.
how
I
it
hope
is.
so, yeah. Anyways, it was that by putting a recorder inside this box, like wooden box
A
with
cage.
mesh, like a cage, like mesh, like metal mesh, it would actually stop any outside frequencies from coming in, so you could
Radio
capture
stations.
like radio
Oh,
stations.
okay, yeah,
so,
right. Yeah.
so it would be more of a secluding the recorder like inside a box, so that way nothing else can come in. And if there is an entity, well, I'm assuming the box is not going to stop it,
Interesting.
and we'll get the recording. So that's a Faraday box. So
We've used it a few times.
yeah, we did, and it did. We actually measured. I think at one point it was at the I think it was at the Willow, where we actually measured it. And when we put the EMF meter inside the box,
Yeah.
there was an actual source that was causing EMF spikes.
It was
Mhm.
what-
When we put it inside the box, the spikes went down
Yeah.
Mm.
because it was interfering with the electromagnetic field coming into it. So
Testing
Against-
equipment.
that's what we
Testing
do. We test
equipment.
equipment. Test equipment.
Troubleshooting.
Experiment.
Yeah, so I guess the analogy is kind of like sort of like a pop filter, where it's like instead of wind, it's like just frequencies.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. It's like what's it called? The wet cat.
Dead cat.
A dead cat on
Yeah,
the
dead cat,
microphone.
yeah, yeah.
So the Faraday box would be like a dead cat.
Yeah.
It kind of
Stops,
deadens
like,
stops the
Not
the
an
stuff.
actual dead cat.
No.
It's like a furry microphone cover, so like wind doesn't affect the
We've
microphone.
all seen them.
Hey, Kyle, you can come back
Yeah.
in. That's fine. We're live and unedited. He's okay there. Kyle's in the corner there. So, any other words of advice that you could give us? Like,
Honestly, like that was like really one thing that like really kind of I see it sometimes like on like it's like just like a collaboration of like ghost videos from multiple different people, and that's the one thing that I notice is that like they're just capturing everything like from the outside and everything too. But
and
obviously,
they're probably not tagging it either.
yeah,
Right,
they're just
yeah.
like there's like you hear like a car, like a siren or something, like a fire truck going by, but it's like they're inside in a dungeon
And
somewhere.
then later on, they listen to something. Oh, that's an EVP. There was a sound. It sounds like a
Yeah,
voice
but
or
really
something.
it came from somewhere else.
Even when it's
Yeah.
raining,
Yeah.
like you can still, it's hard.
Yeah,
That's why it's so important to tag it, actually. Yeah. So here's the recorders we use. You guys want the chips? So what's the difference between, like, we have this, which I know your stuff is much better, being the audio engineer, but this is what we use, the Tascam DR40, and then we have this cheap little recorder that we got. I think I got this on Amazon or something like that. I think it was like $10.
I want to.
So what's the difference between, let's say, this and let's say the Tascam being the much better recorder?
well, a one for one is like you can actually like do quite more with this guy just due to the fact that there's a lot more options that you can do with this. But this is definitely a lot more mobile, so you can put that in your like cigarette lighter pocket if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would find that like this is a little bit more precise just due to the fact that there's, you know, it's a lot more hardcore. This is just a little tiny little thing. It's like comparing, you know, earbuds with like big cans on your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's pretty much what I would think. the
So
differences.
to capture VPs, it's probably better to get good quality.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Invest like
For sure.
so we could tell teams if you want to capture VPs, at least invest in a good quality recorder. And we've had very good luck with these things.
Mm-hmm.
Tascams have been amazing for us. We have. I know you use this one with the camera. The
Yeah,
Tascams.
that's this one of those two.
Yeah, you also use the Zoom
Yeah.
H1.
Yeah, that's great for the
So-
night vision.
So when you're doing a VP, guys, you can get these cheap recorders, which is good if you're just starting out. But I mean, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise that comes with these because I mean frequency response not that great either. But then you get like Tascams, which you could like drop
You
a
can
pin
even
in the
aim,
corner.
you can aim the mic.
Yeah.
You can change the directions. Or
Yeah,
like
this would be
90
the
to
pickup
180.
pattern. So this would be more the whole room,
That's
which this is how we usually conduct a VP, so we can actually capture
Yeah,
the whole
just a
room.
wide stereo.
Yeah, and this is more direct.
Exactly.
That's more direct.
Hold it up to the
Excellent.
camera.
So that's
Oh, yeah,
supposed
right.
to emulate what the human ear hears.
Hold on,
That's
this one.
Mhm.
Which one I go? Live and unedited. This one here.
There you go.
So guys, this is a Tascam DR40. It's one of our main recorders. We've caught a lot of stuff with this. It goes for about what, a couple $100, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not too expensive. So if you're gonna start out in parallel investigating, I would say at least start out with a really good recorder.
I was just being
It's
silly.
lagging.
Okay,
It's
I was lagging a little bit.
I was being silly.
So we have next one here. Another little one. Tascam DR05.
Yeah,
Pretty
I
much
believe
the
that's
same.
the one
It's
that you
different
can't
models.
change. It's always staying in.
This one's always like
Yeah.
captures everything.
Wide-
So this is
wide.
like
That one doesn't
That one is
show
a
Mama
options.
Tascam and Baby
Mama
Tascam.
Tascam.
Mama Tascam, Baby Tascam.
I'll show this one.
Okay, actually,
Mama
Colin's
Shark.
got experience. This is another one we use.
Well, you can talk about it. I'll just hold it up so it's easier.
Okay. So that's another one we use. It's called a Zoom. There's a lot of good microphones, recorders from Zoom, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
The price is right. This is Zoom. Okay, so yeah, the Zoom is also a good one. Would it be comparable to Tascam? You think?
Yeah, like this one here.
Yeah.
Probably. Like, I would say these ones. Like, I've listened to both audio, and these ones here are very similar.
Yeah.
I like this one here. It's just more portable, and like especially like when I'm filming with the night vision, just like slap it on there.
Yeah.
It's good to go.
And that's a good thing because obviously the audio on the cameras is not the greatest.
That's
so
terrible.
we
Sometimes,
actually
yeah.
have this attached to our cameras,
Yeah.
and we'll do VPs at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll
that's
capture
great.
VPs with this.
Which is literally what we're doing right now as well.
Yeah, and these ones
Yeah,
here
pretty
have,
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have
If we hear
audio,
voices coming up, that's whoa.
Yeah.
and these ones here, all of them actually, they all have like headphone outs. So when Adam and I are at investigations and listening to like EVPs and doing like EVP sessions, we can actually hear what's going on through the headphones, through the recorders here. So that's pretty handy.
So, do we have any questions on? So let's recap like how to do VPs. Kyle, you there?
I'm good. I'm listening.
Someone's bidding on it.
Yeah.
There wasn't bidding on the recorders.
$400.
$400.
Oh.
Sold.
Yeah, this stuff is pricey.
So the basic points of capturing a VP is again the controlled environment, accounting where people are,
Mm-hmm.
not whispering, talk out loud if you're going to say something. If you make a noise, you tag it.
Mhm.
If you hear a noise that's familiar, tag it, identify it,
Pursue it.
sync, pursue it, find out where it is, sync with base so you have a timeline in case something visual happens on the DVR, you can actually connect it to the EVP because that's even more compelling, right? If you capture EVP and you capture something visual at the same time, now we have more
I have
more
one.
valid evidence, right?
Also, when you're reviewing, if you think you hear something, you have to show it to a lot of different people without telling them what you think it says, because they're
Yeah.
still matrixing, and we can't really eliminate it with the EVP the way we can with the spirit box, with the headphones. Like, when you're reviewing, you might expect a certain answer if you're asking what city are we in, or what is the name of this building. Like, you know what the answer is supposed to be. You can matrix and have that power of suggestion. So find unbiased parties that don't know the context of where it was caught or when it was caught. several people, as many as you can, honestly,
Yeah.
like a sample, and just have them listen to it and don't tell them at all what you think you hear. And
So you wouldn't tell your
need
team
that
members, right?
consistency.
You wouldn't
You
tell your team members
no.
because you're going to matrix, and if you tell them this is what I heard,
Yeah.
then they're going to hear it the
There are
exact same thing.
studies done. We can
Yeah.
even like what is it, Yanni and Laurel or whatever.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
our
yeah,
brains.
yeah.
As soon as
Who's
you
that?
tell someone,
Oh, it was like this huge
Yanni
thing.
and Laurel?
It was this huge thing that was going around the internet like
Yeah.
last year, the year before,
yeah,
where like people thought they heard someone say Yanni, and then they thought someone
the
said
same word.
Laurel.
Like Laurel. to
Laurel.
half
But like
people.
half the people thought it was saying Yanni, the
And
others
that's not
thought
even
it was
close.
Laurel.
It's not even,
No.
doesn't sound
No.
There's
the same,
another
yeah.
thing I shared it on the Ghost page quite a long time ago. It was on the Ellen show. Maybe I'll share it again after this. But
I
it was
love
a
Ellen.
full
She's funny.
sentence that sounds like gibberish, but then when she says what it actually is saying, and you hear it again, you can hear it perfectly. You can hear exactly the whole sentence. But the
Yeah.
first time, it's absolute gibberish. Our brains, like, as soon as we have a suggestion, we will hear that. So you can't be telling people what to expect.
No, because you actually, if you tell them what you think you heard, it's like the power of suggestion.
Yeah.
They're going to look for that. If you say, I heard
Mhm.
Colin,
Yeah.
they're going to be
They
listening
can
to that
decipher
word,
that
and they're
in
going
the
to, so
chaos.
Yeah.
when you're reviewing your EVPs, make sure that with your team members, don't tell them what you think you hear. Just say you hear something and see what they come up with.
Yeah, see
now,
what the
it's more
response
compelling.
is.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
compelling if we all hear the same thing without the power of suggestion.
Okay.
Again, the
That's
audio-
class. That would be
yeah.
class
You
A
agree?
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The other thing, I had a question too. Have you guys ever tried speeding up the audio that's captured?
I've
Sometime-
actually
maybe-
tried that. Yeah,
Because sometimes maybe it's like there's like it might sound like gibberish, but if it's sped up, it's like instead of like
yeah, sure,
instead of like it playing it back 30 seconds and you turn
Play
it
it
into
backwards.
5 seconds.
play backwards. That's
Or
a
play
good
it
one.
backwards, you know, like Stairway to Heaven, and you play that backwards, and it sounds like
Like-
you're saying 666.
Yeah.
It's like woo. You know?
Because
Ooh.
if
Yeah.
theoretically time and space don't work the same for them wherever they are existing, then yeah, we would have to play around a little bit with how we like traditionally would be listening to things.
So either make it faster or slower.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's an actual, I wouldn't even say theory, there's actually something I read where it says that when a spirit talks, again, it's hypothesis, we don't have any proof of this, but when a spirit talks, it talks at a higher frequency. So slowing it down sometimes will give you
Yeah.
more of an indication,
That's
an
why we have to
indication of
give
what you're
delays,
hearing.
too.
Yeah.
But again, it's not proven. But
Yeah.
I remember reading this.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, you've heard that too, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a possibility that spirits will talk at a higher frequency, and when you slow it down, we can understand it a little bit
And
better.
that's why we're picking. That's why we're picking them up on spirit boxes potentially, because we're scanning through different frequencies. So if they are on a higher frequency, that's why
Yeah.
we have to have something that scans through frequencies that
Yeah,
isn't our own.
That's the other thing too.
That's
That
where
you
you
have
can-
like an equalizer where you can
Mhm.
actually do a frequency sweep, but isolate every other frequency. So when you're hearing it back, you like change the size of the bell, so how much you hear in that frequency spectrum. So then you can narrow things out, and then you do a sweep, and then you're literally playing back that part where you think for sure that there's something happening.
Yeah.
But you play in a loop, and then you sweep around the frequency to
Yeah.
find out if there's really something going on.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
There's another thing we started doing too. The first time we did the headphone experiment with the spirit box, we were recording and the audio. So everything that I said is just relying on what I was hearing at the time. We had no proof for that. So the next investigation, we decided to have spirit box into the recorder, headphones out, so that we can actually record what's coming through the spirit box. That way we can go back, listen to it, and revalidate or validate
Yeah.
what I was actually saying instead
And
of
we can
just
prove to you guys that he's
Yeah.
not just
absolutely
he's not scripted to say certain things or whatever. Like
No.
that's
Yeah.
what's coming through in real time and stuff.
100%.
Well, we know our team. We don't work that way. We don't.
No.
There's absolutely no point to us doing that.
No.
Well, I mean, why would we put our time and effort in and investigate the paranormal if we're gonna fake stuff or not? I mean,
Yeah.
our goal is to actually find credible
I think when
evidence.
you,
So
yeah, that's never made sense to me because I think if you enter a paranormal group, you're interested in the paranormal. Like, why would you want to?
Well, you wanna find-
fake paranormal.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
because
It
you
makes
just
sense.
who you cheating? Just
Like,
cheating
I want
yourself.
to know what's real, what we catch. I want to know
Ratings.
what is
Yeah.
dog
Hey.
inside.
Ratings.
and what's-
Well, no.
The ratings.
We don't do anything for ratings. Mind you, we don't have our show yet. We hope, anyways.
We have a
But
couple
yeah,
questions.
go ahead.
All right,
Question.
so Dana says, "Have you ever had a scary E EVP?"
Well,
That would-
growl.
like really scary?
Yeah,
or
that's a
slightly
very relative.
scary.
It's a
or-
relative
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
It was a growl.
That growl, but
The
it could have been
growl.
a stomach
You-
growl.
Yeah, it could have been a stomach growl.
Oh.
For me, I would say the one that really creeped me out was the scream at the Notman. Because
Oh, yeah.
Carl is sitting at base, and you had a really good camera with good
Yeah, like
audio,
DSLR.
just
And
filming
the
base. And we know that the Notman, it was on a busy section, but it was pretty soundproof. We didn't hear really much going outside. We could hear some noises, but I'm sure if you hear a scream, he would have reacted and went like,
no one at
"What
all.
the heck was that?"
Yeah.
That's an outside
Nobody
sound.
reacted, and
Yeah.
you can tell this is a scream.
Yeah.
Actually, we have that one. No, we don't have it up. We don't have it up
Even
on
if
our.
it was outside, I would have got up and looked.
Oh yeah, because it would have gotten your attention, right?
Or you
Kyle's
pegged
on
it.
that
You didn't
side.
react at all.
Kyle's on that. You can't see us with it.
No one heard that was
Kyle's
They
over
can
there.
hear me.
Kyle, come on in. Kyle.
The comeback was
Come on in,
creepy.
Kyle.
The whole
It's
thing.
live and
Yeah,
unedited.
actually,
Kyle, come on in.
Someone, somebody wanted us to talk about the Ottawa Jail Hostel EVP. So, like, that previous question kind of goes into that one.
So which EVP were we talking about?
The comeback one, I'm assuming?
Oh, come back. That was weird.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Because again, we had a controlled environment, and that's when I think that's what it is. When we do EVPs, a lot of people, you caught a sound somewhere. And for us, it's different because I'm not saying for us. I don't want to say teams don't do it right. It's not our position to say that.
Continue.
But because we're in a controlled environment, when we capture something like the one at the jail hostel where everybody's accounted for,
Yeah.
and we know where everybody.
We take these things into
where's
account, like-
so where's this sound
We
come
have
from?
thought of that already. People are like, oh, it's probably this. Like, we thought of that already. We
Yeah.
made sure, like...
Yeah. So when we caught the EVP at the Ottawa jail hostel that said come back, we really don't know where that came from. There's no clue. Like there's
Yeah, everyone was accounted for.
everybody's accounted for. It's a controlled environment. Everything is safe.
We had the whole floor to ourselves.
Yeah.
Very thick steel doors closed
Yeah.
from all the levels.
Yeah. Is that one queued up at all? No. No?
No,
Okay.
that one's not on there.
Well, you guys will see it when the hostel
Actually,
episode comes
yeah.
out.
Actually, if you want to check it out, it's actually on our Facebook page under videos, and you'll see it says "Come Back EVP." You can listen to it there. We called it a Class A EVP because it's so clear, and
Yeah.
nobody can say, "Well, I
The
heard
tone,
one thing."
we
I heard...
changed it. Though we had to get rid of any contamination. But I think the tonal is a little lower than how it usually. It sounded more like a woman when in real time. When we
Well,
heard it.
I know
But
we're
we've slowed
kind
it
of
down to make
we're kind of
clear.
splitting the team. A couple of us think it's a woman. I personally think it was a woman. I think a couple of other people on the team.
Sounds like
it's
an
a man.
old woman who smokes a lot, maybe.
Yeah.
Come back.
Come back. Come back.
So so somebody was asking about that one, or what was
Yeah,
one
no,
of the creepy ones? Yeah.
Was that a response to a question? No.
I don't think so. I don't
No.
think so. It could have been that could have been residual. I mean, being from a jail, it could have been residual.
Yeah.
You know, like if it's a woman, the husband comes to visit because we know the Ottawa Jail Hostel had a lot of they housed women, children, men.
Yeah.
Could have been a woman. Her husband came to visit. He took off. She said, "Come back." We caught it as a residual recording.
The guards left her there. She didn't come back.
Or something like that. It could be anything. But I mean, that was a Class A EVP. The Scream was another one.
Wasn't there
the cell
hysterical
doors.
laughing, crying one that we caught? I don't remember where, but it was like,
Oh, that was at the Willow Inn.
yeah,
I think so.
it's like laughing but crying.
Well, that's when you got scared by Elliot in the doorway, right?
That could be. That
Yeah.
could be. Yeah.
That sound might have come from you.
Oh, are we talking about ooh-ees?
No.
That was also Willow Inn.
That's me. I say
I
that
don't
all the
think
time.
you. I don't think you.
Every time I strain, I go ooh-ees. I'm telling
No.
you. Anyways, the inside story, guys.
talk about it.
We'll talk about it. This
Sorry.
is
Like,
like,
word
holding back
anyways.
his
yeah,
sneeze.
I know. This is a whole
Backwards,
different.
slow it down.
The
Definitely not intelligent response.
ooh-ees is a whole different story. We'll get into that at one point. So again, I think capturing EVPs is all about having proper equipment, little recorders, that cheap ones like this, which we don't really use much anymore.
We're big boys.
A lot of noise, background noise. They're not the greatest quality, so you could you might mistake something the recorder's picking up for something that's paranormal, and it's not. You got these. The Tascams are great recorders. Tascam DR05, Tascam DR40.
Daddy Tascam.
It's maybe about $100, maybe $150. You can get like a good Tascam DR40 for about $200, and the Zoom, I think about a little over 100, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Zooms
some-
are pretty good too.
100,
Yeah.
150.
Yeah, and to keep in mind too is that yes, the more money you spend, the better the product, but they tend to use the same mics for
Yeah.
a lot of them. So it's like if you look at one name brand like Tascam,
Yeah.
and you look at one from a previous generation, doesn't necessarily mean they changed the microphones. So you
it's
just
still
got to
the
do
same
your
thing.
research.
More
Yeah.
Do the research.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
There's
so
more
that's
options to do
that's a
things.
good point. Do your research on the equipment. Find out what they do. Find out what's good out there. We're not saying to get like a perfect studio quality kind of recorder.
Yeah.
Get something that's kind of like mid-grade. I mean, like I said, the Tascam is like a couple $100, and we've been really lucky with this one. This is the one we got to come back with.
Yeah.
Was the Tascam. This one here. So
They all run on batteries too, and they tend to last forever. Like,
oh, they last long.
They
This
last
one's
forever.
yeah.
You can
This,
use them for a really long time.
yeah. So controlled environments account for people. Just
Critical
dot your
thinking.
I's. Critical thinking is what you do, and reduce contamination. Make sure that you.
That's why we investigate at night too, because less people on the streets and less commotion in general.
Well, that's a good point because a lot of people say, "Well, why do you always investigate at night?"
Yeah.
Why do you? Well, we do investigate during the day
It's
too.
common
Sometimes.
sense.
I'm just trying to get you involved.
Yeah.
We do investigate during the day a little bit, but one of the reasons we do investigate at night, especially for VPs, is less contamination. There's less noise. Everybody's sleeping, less cars are going by, so it's less contamination. So less stuff to tag and the potential for getting more credible EVPs. So that's one of the reasons why
And
we
our visual
investigate at night.
equipment works better at night. And the light is made to work.
Well, there's less light contamination too. There's less
Shadows.
natural light coming in, less chance for shadows. You're in the dark. And we don't know, like a ghost or spirit, is it really, is it within our visual spectrum? It could be in the IR spectrum, the full spectrum. We don't know.
Right, and it's scientifically proven that ghosts sleep during the day.
There you go.
Just kidding.
You want my chair, Kyle? I gotta go to the bathroom. Yeah.
We covered a lot today.
No, I think we did.
Got through a lot here.
So,
Any questions? We send them in now as we sort of
yeah, if
start
you have
to wrap
questions,
up.
send them in now. Anything has to do with EVPs or whatever kind of questions you guys would want to ask us.
Ask us some questions.
And if you have any suggestions, because we're always trying to refine how we do scientific methods. So if anyone in the comments has background in science or has thought of something we haven't thought of, we're always trying to add things on. So
yeah, let us know
if there's better ways of doing things.
I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, so now we're gonna move to something we promised everybody. Drum roll. So we had posted a small little quiz on our Facebook page, and we had a tremendous response. It was kind of funny when I was watching it because people were just guessing like crazy. Now, that thing is over now, so if you guess now, it's too late. So the whole thing was about, we are going to be investigating one of the most haunted places in North America. One of the hints was, it's not in Canada, it's in the States. So people were guessing. Second hint was, it was hidden somewhere in the statements that people were saying. The third hint was a place of great tragedy. Okay, well, yeah, it's great tragedy. Well, every
yeah.
And I'm going to give you one more
gnarly
hint.
stuff.
It would have been a place of great tragedy with 6 children. Now, Adam, so we're going to tell you now about this location. We are investigating this location on August 16th, August 17th, 2019, this coming summer. This location has been confirmed. We are going to the States to investigate this location. Adam, if you want to show the picture, that's where we're going. We are investigating the Villisca Axe murder house in August 2019. So, so yeah, it's
die.
yeah.
Add a bunch more kids to that list.
Yeah. So we're going to be holding a draw. So some people actually guessed it right. And here's a hint that most people didn't notice. When people were actually guessing the location, they would always get a comment. If they were wrong, they would get a comment.
Say, nope,
Nope, it's not the place. Now, what you guys should have looked at is that the people that didn't get a comment were the people that guessed right. So if you go back on the comments on the 2 posts that we did for Villisca, you're going to see that every single person who guessed right, which they said Villisca Axe murder house, you're going to notice there was no comment there. So that was a
The
hint.
process of elimination.
Yeah, and that's part of investigating. That's part of investigating, right? So you should investigate it.
We're training you all.
We're trying to train you.
Building an army.
So yes, we're investigating the Villisca Axe murder house in August 2019, and we will be going live from the States. I hope.
News to
Right.
me.
Probably won't be.
Guess
No,
so.
we'll be broadcasting live from the States,
Yeah.
either on
Yeah.
YouTube or
We should do live,
yeah.
sure. We'll be
So-
filming.
Now I want to mention.
Our whole team won't be there though. A few members. Won't.
Well, a few members can't make it, but I think quite a few. I know Kyle is a definite. I'm a definite. Taylor,
Yeah.
pretty sure, definite. Colin, you're
85%.
85%.
87.7%.
Unfortunately, Melanie will not be able to make it to Villisca, and Tracy is again maybe a kind of a percentage, not too sure yet.
You coming?
So, are you coming? Adam in the back there, he's still a little unsure. Mind you, this is not till August, so things can change. Now, I do want to mention that when I was talking to the actual owner, Martha, she said, I asked her, I was like, oh, a Canadian team, cool, when we were booking this. And she said, oh, you're actually the first Canadian team to investigate Villisca. So I was like, wow, first team to do it.
Cool.
Not only that, first team to investigate it 2 nights in a row,
Woo.
from what I heard. So, on that note, I actually want to mention when we did the first post, we had said that the first 5 people to guess right were going to get a patch, which I'm going to be sending soon. I'm just waiting to get them in. They're going to get a ghost patch, which is kind of like this. That's the ghost patch. Hold on. So this is what you're going to get. Which cameras are there? Ghost patch.
That was your man boobs.
I think you can iron them on
So-
or sew them on too.
So
Nice.
everybody, the first 5 people that guessed right are going to get one of these ghost patches, which you can sew on anything you want. And those people are going to get 2 free draw entries because we will be holding a draw, which means 2 people will be able to join us in Villisca.
Wow.
Do you
In
buy,
Iowa.
Want to buy a ticket?
I'll get a ticket.
I bet you get a ticket.
I'm in.
So I'm going to mention the people that got it right. There was Henry and Rita Calderon. You guys have 2 free entries, and I'll be sending your patch fairly soon. We have Kim Val Burns, who guessed right. She gets 2 entries plus a patch. Amanda Hewitt guessed it also. Patch and 2 entries. Jason Alba, a patch and 2 entries. And Don Cassidy, a patch and 2 entries. Now, after the 5 people that actually guessed it, we kind of kept this going for a while so people can get some free entries. So anybody after that who could guess it right would get 1 free draw entry. And these are the following people. The ones that get a free draw entry are Terry Lynn Smith, Melissa Kindell, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Brenda Griffith, Jose Loisel, Kirsten Talbert, Cheryl Kerr, and Cheryl was actually at the Fort Wellington investigation.
Oh,
She was one of our.
Cheryl.
Yeah, she participated in our or our workshop at the Fort Wellington.
Yeah.
And we have Connie Atherton Gibson, and she was one of our winners back at the Ottawa Jail Hostel.
Yeah.
And she's
Got a
a free.
horseshoe
Yeah,
up her butt.
I guess so. Yeah.
She has
So
some
Sam,
questions for us here too.
oh, go ahead.
She's been very active.
Who?
Well, we already answered them. Connie.
Oh,
Yeah,
Connie.
she's
Yeah.
been very active in the stream.
Yay,
Okay.
congrats.
Well, we'll answer a
thank
couple
you.
more questions after. So,
There's no more.
2 more people I want to mention. Alex Odom is another winner of 1 draw, and Megan Schuenwald is another person that won 1 draw entry in Villisca. So right now, eventually, we're actually going to post an Eventbrite event where you guys, the people that didn't win any tickets, you'll be able to purchase draw tickets. And this draw will probably within the next 4 months. Give people about a couple of months to get ready to go to Villisca.
Yeah.
And we'll hold the draw. Now, of course, you have to be allowed to cross in the state. We have to make sure that everybody knows that
Have a passport and all.
you got to have
Yeah.
a passport, got to be ready. So
Yeah.
if you do win the draw, you're going to have to make sure that you can cross the border, and you'll get a couple of months to get prepared. So, check out
And not
some of
all
the questions.
expenses, right?
We answered all the questions.
Eh?
We've answered all the
We have.
questions. Yeah.
So it's going to be like, when we do the event, we're going to tell you what's going to be included. Definitely, you get to spend 2 nights with us in Villisca, the Villisca Axe Murder House. And we usually investigate from, 8, 9 o'clock till 4, 5 in the morning.
Yeah, you can choose how much you want to participate.
Maybe
though,
let
if
them
you're
know
guest,
about
like-
the virtual tour that they can
Yeah.
take.
Actually, if you log into the actual Villisca website, you can actually check out the virtual tour, which is pretty kind of cool. And you'll be able to look at the house from the interior and actually see what it actually looks like today, or what I assume. I think they made some changes. I think they made some renovation. Anyways, you can actually have a virtual tour of the house. That'll give you a lot of information on Villisca and what went on there. It's such a bad thing, you know. Like parents got killed and 6 kids.
Yeah, it was kind of similar to the
It's bad.
Amityville
That's bad. Yeah.
story.
And
Yeah.
they all
They
it
got-
was a
They got very murdered.
very an axe. Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah,
Her
real.
murdered hard.
And he,
The
spun
blunt
his
end of
axe
an axe,
around
blunt end of an
victory,
axe,
like
yeah,
he
it
was
was
having a
terrible.
good time. He was having a good time.
But the
whatever.
worst thing is that they never
They
caught
never
the
caught.
murder.
It's still an unsolved murder.
There
Over
have
100
been
years
some
after,
EVPs
yeah.
that have been caught by previous investigators, Ghost Adventures being one of them. I mean, they caught an EVP that said very clearly, "I killed 6 kids." And they also caught one, I think, that has a name when they asked who did it.
Yeah.
They did catch a name, I think.
Well, I mean, there's so many.
I mean, we don't know if Ghost Adventures
It's
is
kind of interesting.
legit or
Eh?
anything, but
One of the people that won, like the draw entries, she says, "I've investigated there before."
Oh yeah, who's that?
Kristen Talbert.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Chris said you actually investigated Villisca already. When was this? Actually, can you? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, sure.
yeah, kid, give us low down.
But anyway, we want to say that we actually enjoyed getting everybody's comments, all of your good guesses. It was amazing. It kept me up for a little while at night because I was constantly trying to respond to people. And
Yeah.
then
I don't know
I
why.
think
Why are
one
you
night,
answering every single
I
person?
think one night I spent like 2 hours. Okay, nope. Eventually, I would be saying like, no, sorry, so and so, it's not the location, and it got there was
Were there any
so many
news spots that you never heard of that people suggested?
tons. We have tons of places that we can investigate now. Tons of places I've never heard of.
Yeah.
So we're gonna look into some places like some people mentioned the Amityville or
Yeah, we
Amityville
have-
House and Gettysburg, tons of
Yeah.
different locations. I mean, it's so many
There's
places.
a lot of tunnels too.
She
right?
said it was
Yeah.
back in 2009, so 10 years.
10 years ago
10-year
already, so you
reunion
beat
for
us
you.
to it. Ugh. Anyways, if you get to win, who was it?
Kristen Talbert.
Kirsten, if you get to win again, Kirsten, well, you're going to be investigating Villisca for the second time in your lifetime. So, on that note, I'm looking at my notes here. So, we have pretty much covered everything we wanted. So, we're going to stay on for a little bit here. Another maybe 10 minutes or so. If you guys have questions, just type it on our Facebook page. Ask us some questions about EVPs or whatever you want. About Villisca, when we go there in August, whatever you want to ask, just feel free to ask us on Facebook, and we'll try to answer your questions. EVPs, whatever other
Scientific
questions,
method,
whatever the questions is good.
Yep. Any questions about us?
I want to take my
I'm
seat
gonna
for
go to
10
the
minutes.
bathroom.
Here, I can move.
Okay,
Sit there.
Vince, we'll do your job.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
See you guys.
Rotation.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll hang out for a few more minutes, see if anybody has any more questions. And
Yeah. Live and unedited.
they're getting smoother, though.
Well, the feed is good. The feed is
You
good.
want to maybe give them a plan for the next show? Do you
Yeah,
know
we
what
never
we're
actually
doing, or-
talked what the next show's going to be. It's going to be next show's going to be last Saturday of February. What date is that going? I thought my phone.
It is the 23rd of February.
23rd of February, we're going to have another Ghost Talk show. We've
So-
covered EVP, so maybe
Yeah, so one of the pieces of equipment we're going to review is the thermal.
Thermal
Mind
cam.
blanket.
live and
Yes.
unedited. It's okay.
The
It's
thermal. Oh man, I can't remember.
It's not just a thermal cam.
No, there's another one.
Oh, a different
It's
one?
the FLIR camera. Anyway.
I heard that. Oh, the FLIR. That's
The
a thermal
FLIR,
cam.
yes.
But that's a
The
thermal cam.
thermal cam. Yeah, but there is another name for it.
Okay.
The one that
So-
I bring in.
Next episode, we'll review maybe a couple of pieces of equipment that we did,
Sure.
like recorders and stuff. I'd like to maybe next episodes actually review what's the most controversial piece of equipment that ghost hunters use these days.
Yeah.
EMF meters. That's something we'll cover.
Yeah.
Is it valid?
EMF meters is a good
EMF
one.
meters is a good one. And maybe we'll cover the thermal EMF meters
Mm.
next episode and find out if it's a valid piece of equipment, and we'll let you know actually why we use that piece of equipment and what's actually really, what it's actually really used for, and how to properly use it actually. And it's kind of weird because going back to EVPs, I've seen a lot of videos of certain groups out there, either Canada or the States, where they conduct EVPs and they walk around. They walk as they're doing the EVP, and then suddenly you hear a sound, and it's like, oh, it's a voice.
Footsteps.
Could be your jacket's rubbing on something.
Yeah.
It could be, but again, that's not a controlled environment. That's not the way you conduct EVPs.
No.
You know, if you're walking around with a recorder and you're trying to conduct EVPs, there's going to be too much noise contamination.
Yeah.
It could be like,
Absolutely.
this, I heard a hiss or something like that. You're going to hear a noise.
Yeah, we covered all of that in the show.
Yeah.
In today's episode
Yeah.
of Ghost Talks.
Of course. So we're going to wait for Taylor to come back. Taylor's got some cookies.
I found a cookie, yeah.
So we got some cookies.
Well,
Wow.
any more questions before we end today's talk?
Actually, maybe Adam should show your face on camera. Yes. Come show your
Yeah,
face
pretty
on
face.
camera. Adam's in the background. Come show your face on camera. Come on.
Here, a second.
Go.
Yeah. Go pop down there. See the other videographer.
Yeah, Taylor's getting comfortable.
I got a question.
You got a question?
Yeah, what kind of plan do you have to organize prior to your events? Like, what comes first? You know what I mean?
As far as the event Villisca, or oh my god.
Any investigation in general? Like, what do you do?
Pre-investigation.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
pre-investigation. We do a pre-investigation. We do research on the location. We do research on the people from that location. Interviewing. It's not just about going to.
base readings.
Base
We got base readings because. Well, actually, I'm not going to say this right now because we're going to review EMF meters on our next show. We do take base readings because, and I'll give you an example. Infrasound, and you should know about this, Vince. Infrasound is a frequency that the body can feel, but you can't hear with your own ears. And this is scientifically proven. Those vibrations can make you feel like you're anxious, give you feelings of being watched, feelings of doom because it affects your physiology. And there's been like a lot of tests where they would have like different groups, and they would have one room with infrasound, one room with no infrasound. They will put one group there, and in the room where there's no infrasound, and well, I don't feel anything. It's fine. It's just a room.
Yeah.
And then switch people around and put them in the room with the infrasound, and now I don't feel good or I feel anxious. There's so many investigations, so many things that can affect your physiology. Where you're going to think you hear something, you see something, you feel, it's. But that's why we take base readings.
It
It's
does
because those
affect-
things, if there's, let's say, evidence of
Yeah.
infrasound, well, that could be why you're seeing
And
things.
it does affect people differently. Some not at all, and then some could really affect them.
Yeah, people are
and,
more sensitive.
uh,
But that
yeah.
reminds me of something actually, about maybe us changing the way that we do something.
It'd be like allergies, right?
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah.
So it was allergies.
But I watched a study done, like a power of suggestion study, where they had a group of people in a place that was not haunted, and but they made it seem like it was, like a historical place, and they told these people like, oh, in this room, like people's hair gets pulled a lot and stuff, and so many people were experiencing their hair being pulled after. So I feel like maybe if we take the tour, or have our guests take the tour at the end of our investigation, or maybe even like the way that we research things, maybe not look. I mean, we do need to know where the active spots are in order to know where to set up equipment and stuff, but it is tricky, like, knowing too much, because then you're almost expecting certain things to happen in certain rooms or parts of the house, because they've already happened to people, and it was, the power of suggestion is really a lot stronger than we realize with humans, I think, because that experiment was just a write-off. Like, everyone was like, oh, I feel dizzy in here. Like, they're saying all the same things that the fake tour guide was saying,
And there's been a lot of scientific experiments that I've actually seen a lot of these on YouTube where they put a certain person. This is one I saw. This was weird, and this is a perfect example of power suggestion. They put this fake waiting room. It was a doctor's office, fake waiting room.
Yeah.
Did you see that one? And there's like one person that's like just not familiar with what's going on, and then there's a bunch of people that are on it, and all these people will stand up and then sit down, and this one person would just be sitting down.
Yeah. Like, what's going
And
on?
then they stand up again, and eventually that person started just
Standing up.
following
Yeah.
what everybody was doing. So
Yeah.
that's the
Not
power of
knowing
sitting
why.
down. Not knowing
Everyone
why.
else is standing up. I'm gonna stand up and sit down.
But they would just do it because of power of suggestion, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to do like everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And that happens
A
a lot
herd
when
mentality,
you
you
do
know?
investigations.
It's a survival instinct to follow the herd and stuff. But
Be a cow and follow the herd.
Yeah.
So, anyways, any other questions, Colin? No, that's it.
Let's find out.
Aha.
My phone might die.
I can connect it too.
We got a couple.
You got a couple?
Have you heard noises but not caught them on EVP? I don't think so.
Disembodied voices.
Well, we might have, but maybe we didn't have a recording on at the time.
Yeah, so like, it's hard to
That's hard to
Yeah,
say.
I'm
I
just
mean, it's
trying to
possible.
touch back on that.
It's possible, but usually when we
Well, if they're very faint, yes, obviously.
well, we can miss it sometimes
Yeah.
if it's very.
I feel like I
faint,
have
yeah.
heard like I think it was at the jail. Like I heard like a scream, like with my ears.
Yeah.
Well, like the time we were in the whaling cell and that whooshing sound, we never got that on there either.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's right there in the recording.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
There's residual stuff sometimes.
In my
that we
house,
capture.
I hear a ghost meow. I think sometimes.
It's a ghost cat.
Yeah, we have a ghost cat.
We have a
in our
ghost cat
house.
in our
Yeah,
house.
sure. Yeah.
Gee, you're a ghost man.
Yeah, there's a ghost cat that lives in
Yeah.
our basement.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get next. Okay, next place for investigating is Colin's basement.
I don't even want to know what's in my basement. I live in the basement. I don't know.
We're investigating Colin's basement. That's our
Gonna
next.
investigate Colin Taylor's
Yeah,
basement.
I have done EVP down there and
Yeah.
like the unfinished parts, and I did catch something weird.
Yeah, we're gonna bring our old equipment down. We're gonna investigate the basement.
Like a dungeon.
12 DVR cameras in
Yeah.
the basement, try to catch the ghost.
I don't want to know.
What
There,
did
I
you
don't want to
catch?
know.
Just noises?
I caught like it's a male. It was me and Mel actually, but she
Yeah.
wasn't part of the group. I don't even know if I was part of the group
Yeah.
at the time. Well, yeah, I think I was, but yeah, we just had EVP and like the unfinished part of the basement, not really where I live, at near like the laundry machines and
Yeah.
this dungeon part. And I heard it's a male voice saying like a 1 or 2 syllable word. I just can't make out like what it is, but
Yeah.
it's a vocal, and there's no dudes around, so.
So you think it's a meow?
No, the meow is different. Like,
Oh,
when
it's
I'm in my
different.
room, I
That's a
see
different
a
one.
ghost cat. Like I have a cat, but I see a ghost cat. It's like totally different. Like it's almost like oranges and browns. My cat is just dark gray.
Yeah.
I see it out of the corner of my eye all the time. I always think it's my cat, and my
Yeah.
cat's like upstairs somewhere, and there's no cat. But
Or
yeah, I hear meows sometimes, and I'll yell, "I'm in here!" I'll realize she's sitting right beside me, and it's not coming from at all where I heard it.
People, we are normal. On a normal day, we're normal, but that's fine. I'm just kidding.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not normal, and I like it that way.
Connie asks, do you use Spirit Box? A friend and I used one at the old Coburg jail and got a response.
So we already answered that,
Yeah.
kind of. Like earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
almost
earlier
like
in this talk we talked.
We do sometimes. We don't put
We
a lot
chatted.
of weight behind it, but
Yeah.
we have a special way of doing that. We're able to put a little more weight in it than you normally could, maybe.
Short answer, yes, we do. But
Yeah.
we do a little bit of a different experiment
Yeah.
with it.
But we don't. If we capture something, it's kind of hard to call it valid.
Mm-hmm. We like it.
Evidence,
It's really
but-
fun. So we have.
But again,
spare
that's
time,
something we
we'll
do. It's not. We just don't look for ghosts. We actually take these types of equipment, EMF meters, ghost box, and we actually put them to the test. We try to find out are these pieces of equipment actually valid?
And
Can
we're
you-
almost always using more than one piece at a time. Like we're using them to
we'll use
corroborate
multiple.
each other.
Yeah, we'll
Like,
use
we're not
multiple
just
recorders
using
at
a
the same
ghost
time,
box, especially the ghost box. We would have other things going.
Yeah, and we all know how skeptical I am of the ghost box. But again, it's about because everything when you do paranormal investigation, it's all based on hypothesis. Like there's nothing proven, so we have to try everything that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not just about trying to find ghosts or the spirits of the deceased. It's about testing the equipment and finding out if it works or not.
Yeah.
Is it
'Cause that's
possible?
ground zero for us. If our equipment doesn't work, then we have no way. Like we can't hear the things we can't hear. We need at least working equipment doing its job
Yeah.
for us to follow the other like patterns of belief of how we think we would find spirits if they did exist.
And I mean, this is my personal opinion. is that sometimes I find our minds can be our worst enemy
Yeah.
because we can
Yeah,
imagine
psychology
stuff
is
like
totally part of the scientific side. We take psychology into account a lot. Things like the power of suggestion. Like we both read studies. I think from the sound of it, we've seen similar studies and videos and social experiments and stuff like that. It's really important to understand like how fragile our minds are,
especially when you're doing paranormal
bias and
investigations.
hysteria.
And that's, and again, that comes back to controlled
Your
environment.
senses are heightened right when you're in the...
Well, you know what? Let's go back. I know this is totally off subject, and we're just scratching this. This is something you had mentioned about cold spots.
Yeah.
You know, when people say, "Oh, it's a cold spot," it feels like a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just my personal opinion within the team. I think it's like, no, you are in a cold, damp environment in the dark, and your physiology is actually reacting to that environment. You're getting scared, you're getting hyped up, your adrenaline's pumping, your hair's going up on your arm, and most people will say, "Oh, it's a cold spot, it's a ghost that's present."
Psychosomatic.
Yeah,
Haunted.
exactly. It's haunted, that's it's a ghost.
And I notice a lot, like even like as soon as like the EMF, let's say, starts going off, then someone will feel cold. So they're already freaked out by something. They already know there's supposedly something active happening, and then they start getting all these other, which I don't know. It would make sense either way. If there was a spirit there setting that off, then that would be the time that you would also feel it near you, cold. But also, if you were hysterical or something psychosomatic, that would be a chain reaction of experiences too.
But this is all the type of stuff that we're actually going to cover in future episodes. Equipment, cold spots.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Colin?
We do. We have one question. Jose asked, ever tried automatic writing?
The team hasn't.
I have in the past.
Not with the team, though.
Not with the team. As a team, no.
Yeah.
No, as a team, no. We've never actually tried because it's hard to actually validate those types of experiences because our approach is somewhat different. I mean, we all have our own beliefs, but we have to keep
separate.
We have to separate.
Church from state.
Yeah, exactly. We have to separate, and stay focused.
What's the process with that? Explain that.
Well, remote writing would be you can actually get yourself in a meditative state. You have a pen, a trance, and then you would just scribble, and your hand goes a mile a minute. And sometimes you come up with some writing and some actual information.
It's like a channeling
medium. It's kind of like a Ouija board.
A lot of people find it very effective. They've got all kinds of weird things, but at the same time, it's not scientific at all. That could be your unconscious, like coming through your hands know the motions, just letters.
Just like the Ouija board can be.
Just like
exactly.
Yeah,
it's a subconscious suggestion, and it's.
We might do it for fun one day. I don't know.
So
we might do a Ouija board for fun.
Well, you know what? I mean, I think we've had this conversation before. I mean, the conversation of psychics, where we don't use psychics in our investigation because again we can't validate it. And I've been the one who's been the most opposed to it. And a lot of the team members said, "Oh, maybe we should just try it out. Well, maybe one day we can do that. It'd be like a piece of equipment we can test. Let's see if it works."
We put the psychic to the test, just like we put equipment.
Exactly.
To the test. I mean, we can't close ourselves off to anything not scientific because we can try and test and prove if they are or not scientific.
Yeah, kind of like James Randi.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
All right, last question.
Last question.
Have you encountered warm spots beside cold spots?
Oh, you mean that's how we're determining the contrast?
Temperature?
I mean, I think that's what people are talking about when you do feel cold spot. It's like that very isolated spot that's cold. The rest is
visibly
normal.
Physically feel like the difference.
Especially if it's not necessarily in a damp, dreary place. Sometimes we're in very nice hotels that are just haunted and it's very warm and stuff. And then you feel a cold spot and it's cold and it's weird.
It can be very isolated. Like it could be up high, like a little ball.
Yeah,
we do know that. Well, we do know that cold air is heavier than hot air.
Yeah.
So it'll fall, and hot air. If you're in a basement, okay, you're gonna get cold spots.
But maybe they mean, do we ever experience something paranormal as a hot spot rather than a cold spot?
Oh, not that I know. Not.
But I have heard other investigators experiencing that, specifically in more like demonic type experiences where they start to feel very hot, almost like they're burning, and there's like a hot pouch of air rather than a cold pouch. So maybe different types of spirits have different trademark ways of using energy, but I think usually it's a cold spot because it's them taking the energy from the environment. It's not that ghosts are cold, it's that they're taking from the natural energy that already exists in the ambient environment.
You're stealing the heat from the area, right?
Yeah.
And that's That's how heat.
So it's a lack of heat. It's not that they're made of that temperature.
Again, it's still not a proven theory.
Yeah.
No.
I would still point to when people feel cold spots, probably just their body reacting to the environment they're in.
Yeah, anxiety makes me feel cold, and a lot of times if a lot of crazy things are happening all at once, like I do start to get anxious, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is around, and then you start to get kind of shaky.
Going through your body, and
again, the human body, the human mind could be your worst enemy doing an investigation.
And then when you hear like your hair stands on the back of your neck, that's an automatic response from when we were cavemen, you know, when we had hair.
We still have some.
So we can detect something before it actually touches our skin.
It's a response.
Bugs with diseases and stuff.
Well, that's the whole point. You put somebody in a spooky environment. Let's say, and I think for us, this is what's going to be hard for Villisca, because we know this is actually one of the first locations we're going to do, but there's actually been such a big tragedy.
Yeah.
2 parents and 6 kids hacked to death with the blunt end of an axe.
Yeah.
If we don't find something there, we're not going to find something.
We're not going to find anything anywhere.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean because it's a tragedy that it could be hunted. But
and
I mean,
sexual assault.
Yes, that was in the action. If you look at the
Really
history,
young
there
girl.
the young girl was positioned. One of the
only
neighbors girls. She was. There was times that she fought back, and she was in a weird position where it could have been sexual assault.
Yeah, it's a very.
So there's a lot of tragedy in that house, and we're going to be there on August 16th and 17th.
Jesus.
Yeah, and actually 2 people. So just to elaborate, there's going to be one winner of this draw, but that one winner can bring their significant other with them, either husband, boyfriend, or whatever, +1. So it's one winner +1. In the next little while, we're going to actually have a draw, and it's going to explain to you what you're going to get when you win, and that should be coming up maybe in the next few weeks.
If they have to pass on it, we'll draw again.
Exactly.
Because there's a certain amount of some expenses that'll be there and traveling the border.
And of course you have to make sure, you know, if you're a convicted convict, probably not a good thing. You're not going to cross the border, so you're going to have to make sure that you can cross the border, because we're going to the States, and you know the States are very picky about people crossing over. So any other questions, Colin?
That's it.
Okay, so next episode, February 23rd. We're going to cover different types of equipment. Kyle mentioned we're going to cover the FLIR camera, the FLIR thermal camera. And we're going to cover the other gadgets that we use when we do paranormal investigations, including the EMF meter, how we use it, how it should...
Your head was in the shot.
Oh, crap.
So anyways, next episode, we're going to go through different types of equipment we use, why we use them, and how we should be using it. That camera there? Okay. That one there? Okay, we're good. Okay, so tune in on February 23rd, 2019 for our 4th episode of Ghost Talks. We're going to go through some different types of equipment, how we use them, as I said before. So tune in, and I'd like to thank everybody who did tune in tonight and had some questions. Congratulations to the winners of the draws. Your names will be entered in that draw, and I will be sending those patches out soon to the first 5 winners. Special thanks to Vince. Thank you, Vince, for joining us. Adam in the background for handling the live feed. Guys, thanks so much. Have a good night. We'll see you on February 23rd, 2019 for episode 4 of Ghost Talks.
Nice.
There we go. We got the intro going. Wow. Super. Fucking cold in this room. Should have started the fucking stove.
It's just, excruciating.
Well, yeah, but I didn't turn it on because I knew these guys were going to have a shitload of stuff here, and I didn't turn on the stove. And they had to turn off the heater in the back because of the noise. Oh, YouTube is still on. Hey, behind the scenes, our live feed is finished, but we're still filming on YouTube.
That was good. Okay.
Was it
Good job, guys.
Son of a gun. Seriously?
That was freaking hilarious.
Sweet.
This one could be turned off.
Kyle, what time did you want to take off?
It seemed like there's the internet connection just was dropping.
Oh, yeah, okay, so now let's stop recording.
Whatever.